Acts chapter 4, verse 13, and we'll read down and include verse 17. Now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were uneducated and untrained men, they marveled, and they realized they'd been with Jesus. And seeing the man who had been healed standing with them, they could say nothing against it. But when they had commanded them to go outside of the council, they conferred among themselves, saying, "What shall we do to these men? For indeed that a notable miracle has been done through them is evident to all who dwell in Jerusalem, and we cannot deny it. But so it spreads no further among the people, let us severely threaten them that from now on they speak to no man in this name." Verse 17 again. "But so that it spreads no further among the people, let us severely threaten them that from now on they speak to no man in this name." There's an interesting Greek word that's intrigued me for some time. I first ran into it in the book of Acts because it's only found in the book of Acts, and it's found in chapter 1. And it's the Greek word kardiagnosko. It's two words put together. You recognize the first one, kardia, which is the word of the heart, which is our word for the heart. And it's also gnosko, which is the word for knowing. But it's a word for knowing that, as we have said often from this place, it's a word for knowing that is intimacy, that is knowing in terms of value, that the what you are knowing has value to the one who knows it, and there is a relationship that becomes established. It's the Greek word, gnosko is the Greek word that's used for physical relationship within marriage. It's used consistently for that because it's an intimacy term, and it's a knowing because I've embraced you, I've engulfed you, enveloped you. It's that kind of word. And when you put those two words together, kardia and gnosko, it can literally be translated heart knower. Interesting word. It's only used twice in the New Testament. Both of them are used in the book of Acts. This really intrigues me because every time it's used in a business meeting. The business meeting of the early church. The first time is in chapter 1 when the early church, the 120, have gotten together and they're investigating replacing Judas, and they're voting on it. And it's used there in their prayer. And it's also used in the Jerusalem Council when they've got this big issue about the Gentiles and what are we going to do with them and all of that sort of thing. And they have come together, and again, this word shows up in that business meeting. It's intriguing because it's used only twice, but it's used only twice, and Peter is speaking it each time. So this is only coming out of the mouth of Peter. Again, in chapter 1, it's in the prayer, and in chapter 2, chapter 15, I think it is, it's the Jerusalem Council, and it's Peter is speaking and explaining what happened to the Gentiles when he went to Cornelius. So Peter's the only one who speaks it, used twice, only twice in the New Testament, always found in the book of Acts, always found in a business meeting. And it's a heart knower. But really what is paramount is, this is only found in relationship to God. And both times, Peter is referring to God, who is the heart knower. Not data, not information, but knows you like husband and wife know each other and knows you from the depth of your heart. In fact, could I propose that he probably knows you better than you know yourself? Because we fool ourselves, do we not? And we cover and we deceive ourselves. But God is the heart knower. I don't have to tell you that biblically, as you walk through the scriptures, the big mammoth concern that God has in relationship to your life is your heart. And I don't have to tell you, do I, again, remind you that the heart is never used for the blood pumper. It's always used for this core thing, what produces you, the very essence of your inner being, where you come from, your motives, what makes you up, the fiber of your system, the core, your heart, and that God knows you and is most concerned on that level. Do you realize how much trouble that caused Jesus? In the religion of his hour, in the Judaism of his day, coming up against the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes, that just played havoc in his relationship with them. Because his big concern was, what's going on in your heart? And their big concern was what's going on in your actions and in the physical. And they totally overshadowed, totally covered, totally had no interest at all in what was going on in the inner being of their system, and was only concerned about what was taking place in the physical and in the action of the life, and dismissed the whole deal of the inner heart. And yet Jesus kept coming back constantly to them and saying, it's the heart deal. In Matthew chapter 15, a bunch of Pharisees came all the way from Jerusalem to Galilee, which was an 8 to 10 day walk. And when they got there, they came for the purpose of trapping him and dismantling and embarrassing his ministry. And as they surrounded the disciples, the first thing they could find to pick on was the defilement thing. And of course, the defilement wall was all about outside. It was never about inside. It was always about outside. And your disciples haven't washed their hands, which was not a hygiene thing. It was simply a defilement deal. And Jesus put them to flight on that deal. And when he was alone with his disciples, he said stuff like this. Listen to this. Not what goes into the mouth defiles a man, but what comes out of the mouth, that defiles a man. Matthew 15:11. So the issue, Jesus said, was, see, you're all concerned about what goes in. You're all concerned about the activity. You're all concerned about the habit out here. And it wasn't that he was downplaying that or that didn't matter, but he was emphasizing the idea that really what counts here is what it's the depth of your heart, because you can have all the things that are right out here, and if the heart isn't right, what have you got? Because it's not what goes in the mouth that defiles a man. It's what comes out of it, because what comes out of it is the evidence of the heart. In the same passage, Jesus reached back into an Old Testament and quoted an Old Testament prophet and said, these, and he was talking about the Pharisees, these people draw near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. See, I got the language down. I've been trained in what to say. I know when to stand and when to sit. See, I got the songs memorized. I know how to make the prayers. See, I got all of that down. But the heart. No wonder they took him out and nailed him. It was in his last preached message, last public message that Jesus preached. He had had quite a day with the Pharisees. Whew, man, they were after him. And he literally, totally at the end, just embarrassed them. And they went slinking off. Can you see them? Off they go. And Jesus turned to the crowds, and his last preached message was the 7 woes to the Pharisees. And they weren't even there, so this is not, he's really lambasting the Pharisees. It was a heart that was broken. And Jesus was pleading with the multitude, saying, hey, disciples and crowd, don't be like those guys, please. Don't act like those guys. Don't think like those guys. Come on, guys. I don't want you to be like the Pharisees. I want you to go way beyond that. And then he began to give examples, imagery that is so vivid. Imagery like cup and dish. Listen to this. For you cleanse the outside of the cup and the dish, but inside you're full of extortions and self-indulgence. Can you see that picture? You've washed the outside so clean, but inside you got the old coffee stains. Think of what's inside of you. Never mind. You got the old coffee stains. You never, whoa, it's so beautiful though, but just don't look inside, you know. If you think that one was bad, let me give you another one, and you know this. He, in the same passage, he gave this, you are like whitewashed tombs. Think of that imagery. For in Jerusalem, here's the sepulchres and you've whitewashed them, and they're so beautiful, and you can stand, and isn't that, but you know what's inside, come on. And he goes on to say, you are like whitewashed tombs, which indeed appear beautiful outwardly, but inside you're full of dead men's bones and all uncleanness. Would you agree with me? Jesus was really stuck on the heart. He didn't downplay outside stuff, but he always upplayed heart, which caused the outside. And it was always heart stuff. What do you like in your heart? Now, I want you to take that, and I want you to bring it into our passage, which is verse 17. A great miracle has taken place. Peter has walked by a lame beggar and grabbed him by the hand, yanked him to his feet. And the guy has been made well, and it was all done in the name of Jesus. It was such a phenomenal miracle because this guy was so well known as a beggar, had been a fixture outside the gate, beautiful. They went into the Solomon's porch in this huge crowd. Peter had the opportunity of exhorting that crowd and telling them all about Jesus and giving all the credit to Jesus. And they were praising Jesus. And Pharisees and Sadducees are all upset. And leaders of Israel, they grab them and dismiss the crowd and grab them and bring them down to the court. And it's a horseshoe-shaped Sanhedrin. 70 of the most powerful men of Israel sitting there. And Peter and John and the lame beggar who's been healed are standing out there. They're interrogating, and before they get done, Peter, who's filled with the Spirit now, is literally giving this message, and it is so powerful, it is so overwhelming, it is so not just intellectual, not just wise, not just, he's got some good book learning, not that kind of stuff, but there was something so penetrating in the spiritual realm that was coming out of Peter that these guys recognized, forevermore, this is the same thing we encountered with Jesus. And they realized they'd been with Jesus. And everything that irritated us about Jesus is now coming back and irritating us about these guys. Forevermore. What seemed to be in Jesus seems to be in these guys. And whatever Jesus was about, these guys are about. And however Jesus thought, these guys seem to think too. And it just, I thought we got rid of him, and now he's back in the form of these two guys. And what's going on? And there was the impact again of the encounter of the Spirit of God that came to them through the person of Jesus. They couldn't stand it. In fact, what they did is they put them outside, closed the door, said, we want no input. And it says they conferred together, put their heads together. We don't want any input from the Spirit of God. We want no input from them. We're going to turn into ourselves. And in their self-centeredness, they turn into themselves and came to an overwhelming dilemma. Now, here's their dilemma, and it's our passage. Verse 16, what shall we do with these men? A notable miracle has been done through them. It's evident to all who dwell in Jerusalem. Everybody in Jerusalem's talking about it. There's no way to discredit it. There's no way to discount it. How are we going to dismiss it? We'd like to, but we can't. I mean, the guy's standing right there. And it isn't just a miracle. It isn't, what I mean is, it isn't just a physical thing. This guy seems to be together. This guy seems to be whole. His life is changed. We felt the impact of him. We can't discount that. What are we going to do? We can't discount the miracle. And then it goes on to say, look at the rest of verse 16. For indeed a notable miracle has been done to them, is evident to all, through them, is evident to all who dwell in Jerusalem. We cannot deny it, but so that it spreads no further among the people, let us severely threaten them that from now on they speak to no man in this name. Get the scene. They're confronted with Jesus all over again. Everything that irritated them about Jesus is now irritating to these men. They realize they've been with Jesus, and out of that context of being with Jesus, this miracle hits them full in the face. What are we going to do with that? We can't deny that. We can't dismiss that. There's no way to discredit that. But, and you got the contrast. Now, I want to give you a couple handles on this. Number one, heart's concern. It's all wrapped up in the conjunction but in my translation. Yours may not say that. It's not the normal word that blew me away. See, the normal word for a contrasting but is de, D-E. But that's not this. It could be the word and, which is two equal ideas linked together, but that's not this. This is the word alla, which is the idea of on the contrary, or it indicates a difference from a previous idea. In other words, over here we got the idea, oh, there's a miracle. Here's a miracle. We can't discount it. The guy's made whole. He's standing right there. There's no way to dismiss it. We can't discredit it. There's the miracle. What are we going to do with it? We can't do anything with it. But on the contrary, or different from that, here's what we've decided to do. Here's how we're going to handle this. This is the procedure. A great miracle has been done. We can't deny it. But to tell you the truth, we don't care. We don't care. See, God is moved. We don't care. A man has been put on his... We don't care. A guy's going back to his family. We don't care. God has moved beyond the physical. He's moved in the interior of the man's life, psychologically, and Luke just goes overboard to describe this time and time again. But we don't care. All of Jerusalem is being affected. We don't care. God is revealing himself again. We don't care. We don't care. Shut it down. We don't care what God is doing. We don't care how he's moving. We don't care what miracles he does. We don't care how we felt his presence. We don't care that he entered into our lives and affected us again. We don't care that what came out of Jesus is now coming out of these guys. We don't care. We don't care. We're going to shut this thing down, put the disciples outside. We're not going to respond to this. We're not going to be open. We're not going to buy in. We're not budging. We don't care. Do you care? You want to get off at a private moment and list all the times that God has broken through into your life? Do you care? You want to go into a private moment and just make a list of all the miracles God has done in your life? Do you care? If the intervention of God in your life equaled the depth of your spirituality, how deep would you be? You'd be a saint, wouldn't you? Do you care? Miracle is taking place. We don't care. God has moved. We don't care. We don't care. We're not going to be open. We're shutting it down. We don't care. It's very severe. In fact, they use that word. Let's severely threaten them. They don't care. Could I suggest to you, they don't care about, number one, communication. Do you realize these are the 70 most powerful men of Israel? 35 Pharisees, 35 Sadducees, and some of them with the scribes mixed in. They are the boys who they are the experts on the Old Testament. They're the guys who have studied. They have had the communication, and there is a history of prophet after prophet after prophet after prophet after prophet. They have memorized the messages of the prophet. They have heard the voices of the prophet. They have sat under the prophets. They have had the teachers teach them about the prophets. They've had the prophets screaming in their ear. God had raised up Moses, the first one, and every generation had their prophet who yelled in their ears and said, guys, don't you know where this is going? The Messiah's coming. Get ready. They got up every morning and said, could this be the day that he'll show up? Why? The prophets had predicted it. They heard the prophets all through their scriptures. Day after day, they saw their ancestors disobey and go into exile. The prophets warned them. They saw the prophets whose message came true. They said, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care how many prophets you send. We don't care how loud they yell. We don't care what kind of miracles they do. We don't care how often they wrote. We don't care how many times their prophecies came true. We don't care. We're shutting this thing down. We're not going to be open. We're not going to respond. If it doesn't shape out the way we want it, we're not going to buy in. We just plain flat don't care. We're not going to be open. We're not going to respond. We're not going to receive. Truth has come. We don't care. Prophets have spoken. We don't care. Old Testament is in our hand yelling at us. We don't care. We've felt his presence again through 2 apostles. We don't care. Miracle has taken place. The evidence of the movement of God is, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care. Do you care? Please don't take time now to calculate how many sermons you've endured. Think of the hours you spent sitting in a scene like this. Do you care? Do you care? You've had the Bible. You've had the Word. You've had the prophets, the voice of the prophets. You've had the actual lips of Jesus part. Do you care? Shut the door. Step outside. Let's turn into ourselves. We don't care. We don't care. Could I suggest to you they didn't care about communication? They didn't care about crucifixion. Do you think there was any indication? These are the boys, the 70 of them. These are the boys who met in the committees. These are the boys who plotted. These are the boys who came up with the 30 pieces of silver. These are the boys who instigated. These are the boys who blackmailed Pilate. These are the boys who said, ask for Barabbas instead of Jesus. These are the guys, people. These are the exact same guys. Do you think they ever had a sense of, oh, brother, did we do the wrong thing? They had crucified him. They had stood around the base of the cross and shook their fist in his face. They had ridiculed him. They're the ones who participated in. You can save you can save others. You can't save yourself. If you're really king of Israel, they're the ones who plotted the whole scene. These guys. And the word has come to them. And here it is all over again. A miracle has taken place. They don't care. They shut it down. See, we would rather close it down than admit we were wrong. We're not. Do you think we're going to repent? Do you think we're going to say, oh man, if we got into this, if we accepted Jesus, it would revolutionize, upset, change our whole approach to our living. We're not gonna budge. We don't care. We don't care if we did the wrong thing or not. We don't care if we made a mistake or not. We don't care how many times God talks to us. We don't care how many miracles he does. We don't care. We don't care. Shut it down. Do you care? If you believe the scriptures, you believe that every sin in your life nails him. From a philosophical view, time runs here. God lives here in eternity. He doesn't have time. From a philosophical view, you're walking this line moment by moment. God lives here and sees your past, your future, and your present all at the same time. He lives in the eternal now. You live in the past, present, and future. The crucifixion of Jesus for God, then, is now. Because he sees the crucifixion. It's in your past, but he sees the crucifixion just like it was happening now, because it is happening now, because he doesn't live in time. So from a philosophical view, you're walking this line. Jesus has died 2,000 years ago, and you didn't have anything to do that. From what God's view, he's here. He sees the crucifixion, and what you do this moment is directly responsible for what happened then. So don't say that was 2,000 years ago, and don't say it's a bunch of guys in the Sanhedrin and I didn't have anything to do. You're sitting in their chairs, son. You're part of the group. You were there saying, The ridicule came out of your mouth. And every time you don't line up, every time you disobey, every time you step out of his will, every time you don't respond to him, you have nailed him afresh and put him to an open shame. Do you care? See, do you care? Or you just say, step outside, close the door, we'll confer on ourselves, we'll make up our own little idea, come to our own little theology. I don't care. I don't care if I'm crucifying him. I don't care what happens to him. I don't care what he thinks. Do you care? They didn't care. Miracle has been done. They don't care. It was evident to everybody in Jerusalem. They don't care. We don't care. God has given them the prophets. We don't care. It comes to them in overwhelming power that they have done the wrong thing. We don't care. We crucified Jesus. We don't care. We're not going to be open. We're not going to respond. We don't care. Oh, let me give you another one. Consequences. They don't care. What's going to be the consequences of all of this? We crucified him. Now we're threatening the disciples. What's going to be the consequences of all of this? We don't care. We don't care. And folks, there were consequences. Do you realize that from about 40 years after this very event, Jerusalem went flat? I mean, there wasn't one stone of the temple left on top of another. An army came in and plowed that thing under, and all of Judaism disappeared, and the Jews ceased to be a nation for 2,000 years. They were wiped out. And where did all of that come from? It was the consequences of, we don't care. We're going to do what we want to do, and we're going to act the way we want to act, and we're going to have it the way we want, and we just plain flat don't care. Well, what about the consequences? We don't care. Well, don't you realize there's a hell? We don't care. Don't you realize you're killing yourself? We don't care. Don't you realize what you're doing to others? We don't care. We just plain flat don't care. Put those guys outside and shut that door. We'll confer in among ourselves. We just don't care. We're not going to be open. We're not going to respond. We're not going to embrace. We don't care. Do you care? Do you care what your attitude is doing? Do you care that when you sit in this place and give forth with negative attitudes, it fills this place with demonic force that shuts down the movement of the Spirit and somebody's life isn't affected? Do you care? Consequences, do you care? Do you care what you're doing to your kids? Do you care what you're doing to the... Do you care? See, they didn't care about the miracle. All of Jerusalem is talking. We don't care. The evidence is all. We don't care. They didn't care about the communication from the prophets. We don't care. We don't care. They didn't care that they crucified and did the wrong thing. We don't care. We just don't. We don't care about consequences or where this is going. We don't care. I'm going to give you another one. Correctness. See, we don't care. I've told you this before, but wow, it's so... Soldiers have just experienced the resurrection of Jesus. Angel comes down, shakes the place. Wow. Rolls the stone back, bright lights. These guys get so scared they pass out. And the body of Jesus is gone, and the resurrection has taken place. They finally wake up and run into Jerusalem and go to these guys right here. These guys right here. These guys right here. Come to these guys. And they tell them everything that happened. Bright lights, stone rolled away, the body's gone. He's raised from the dead. And you know what they did? They took money out of the church treasure, paid them, bribed them, and said, tell a lie. Well, it's a lie. We know it's a lie. You know it's a lie. That's why we're paying you. Go out and tell the lie. Disciples stole the body. Well, what about truth? We don't care. What about the reality? We don't care. What about the way it really? We don't care. We don't care. We don't care about correctness. We don't care about truth. We don't care about reality. We don't care. We don't care. Tell the lie. We don't care. Because if we cared, we'd have to change. If we cared, we'd have to, oh, brother, align with truth. We'd have to embrace. We don't care. Put those guys outside. Shut that door. Let's confer together. Who are we going to have to pay this time? See, we don't care. Do you care? Do you care about truth? You care about the way it really is? The way it really is? Not the way some preacher says, not well, that's your theology, this is mine. I'm talking about the way it really is. Do you care? Are you open? Are you, yes. Would you take everything in your life and just put it up for grabs and say, hey, all of this is changeable for truth's sake. All of this, hey, whatever has to happen to bring me into line with the way things really, hey, I care. I care. They didn't care. And America has been, we don't care. Oh, Jerusalem is not. We don't care. It's obvious God is not. We don't care. It's obvious the name of Jesus is so powerful. We don't care. We don't care. The prophets have come. We don't care. We don't care. There's consequences. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care about truth. We don't care. We just don't care. But do you realize that is all contrasted with another group of people who were also involved in the crucifixion? They're not the leaders. I got that. But Peter stands up at Pentecost and preaches this phenomenal sermon. And when he gets done preaching, it is so overwhelming. In fact, the verse is found in Acts chapter 2. And in Acts chapter 2, it's verse 37. It says, "Now when they heard this, they were cut to the heart. And they said, 'What shall we do?'" They cared. Somebody cared. And 3,000 of them got saved. Men besides women and children. 3,000 of them. Because they cared. They cared. They cared. They cared. Do you care? This is so simple, isn't it? And maybe I've yelled so loud that they don't care that you think they don't care about anything. That's not true. See, they do care. The problem is they care about the wrong thing. You know what they care about? Themselves. See, all of this is a protection of self. All of this is about me, I, and myself. See, all of this is about how can I cover. See, all of this is about save me. All of this is about, see, it's not about open. It's not about change. It's not about, oh, what will you do? It's not about, well, man, this will embarrass me. It's not about, oh, there goes my pride. It's not about, oh, my, that's going to have to go in my life. See, it's not about that. It's all about, oh, protect, guard. See, they're so stuck on themselves. So it isn't that they don't care. They do. They just don't care about the right thing. Jesus, Lord, I want to care. I want to care about the right thing. I want to care about truth. I want to care about you. I want to care about consequences. I want to care about where this is going. I want to care about your purpose. I want to care about your destiny. I want to care about where what you're trying to pull off. And God, I've gotten in your way. I've nailed Jesus. I know that. I've nailed him. I got in your way. You wanted to redeem a world, and I didn't let it happen. I've blocked your plan in the lives of others, and you wanted to get through to others, and I blocked it. Because I was so stuck on myself and had my own opinion, and I've been all wrapped up in stuff that wasn't. See, I've been like the Pharisees, and I've been all wrapped up in stuff, not you. And Lord, I got off, and it wasn't you, and I cared, but I cared about the wrong thing, and it really was all about me and what I wanted and my opinion and how I thought. And Lord, you've cut me to the heart. And I'm crying out today, what do I have to do? What shall I do? How should I respond, God? How? I've put you outside the room, shut the door. conferred, put my head together with my own self and conferred. Please, speak again. Please. Allow your voice to penetrate again. Please, if it takes another miracle that I cannot deny. Please, God, save me from myself. Heads are bowed. Hey, nobody can talk you into it. Nobody can force you to it. But I'd like to pull on you and pull you into openness and surrender and living in a state of, oh, yes, yes, to Jesus like you never have before. I would like for the Holy Spirit to reach into your heart and pull you out of stubbornness and out of the ruts of your own patterns and routines, and yank you out of your own set thought patterns and bring you into a new intimacy with Himself that would give you truth, that would and I think all He's calling us to today is a new openness and a new, yes, Jesus, yes. Well, I don't know where it's going. Yeah, well, okay. I don't know what the results of all it will be. Yeah, you're going to have to trust Him. I don't know what He's going to do. I know. But I can tell you what's going to happen if you put Him out the door. So these are moments of seeking and moments of openness, and these are not moments of judging. These are not moments of, oh, look there. Hey, I got all I can handle in my life without coming down on yours. So these are just moments of seeking. Because Jesus, I care. I care. I really care. And I'm open to you today. What do you need to do in this boy? What do you need to change in me? What attitudes do you need to alter? What patterns have I established that need to be shifted? Come on, God, don't leave me alone. Don't leave me alone. I'm opening up the door. Yeah, maybe I've put you outside, but I'm opening up the door. Come on in here. Come on in here, God. Dear Jesus, penetrate the depth of my heart. Because I care. Want to join me in seeking?